Well, hi everybody. My name is Naya, full name Nyaradzo, if you prefer that, either works. And I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me. I'll be talking about how to fail the JavaScript HackerRank and still get the job. And so before we get into all that, I wanted to just share some more information about me. As stated, I am a recent CU Boulder graduate. I graduated from CU with a double major in finance and accounting. And throughout my time, I interned at some pretty prominent places, but it was always just, I don't know, something that I saw as just a way to get a paycheck. It, whenever the opportunity rose to either come back the following year or even accept full-time jobs, I really wasn't excited. I just kept turning down those things. However, come March of 2020, as we all know, that is when COVID was in full force. But that was just 6 weeks away from my graduation date. And so it became very apparent that I was going to be graduating in the midst of a recession. And I was actually luckier than a lot of my friends and peers, being that I actually did get a job offer in my field. However, it really wasn't anything to be excited about for me. It was a very small firm, 5-person firm, and the salary was just loads below industry average. I want to say like half industry average. And I just didn't like where that would set me up in terms of my career path. And so that really was the tipping point for me to see like, okay, I have been learning how to code in my free time and I really like what I've been learning. And so, you know what, I'm just going to pull the trigger and join a software engineering bootcamp. And so I ended up joining the Flatiron School. And fast forwarding a little bit there, that started in June. I just now finished in October. And now that I had finished, it was time to go through the whole job hunt process. And after about 3 days of applying to jobs, you start really just being, me at least, start being very mindless when applying to jobs, because at that point, you're just looking for an opportunity. I was just sending resumes to everybody and their mama, just trying to get things out there. So started getting a bit mindless in it until I received an email from a company, and they were like, congrats, you have a first round behavioral interview. Like, we want to interview you. And it's very funny because to this day, I don't remember ever applying. It was just in the midst of that mindlessness of just pushing everything out. But once I received that email and did some more information on the company and the role and everything, it very, very quickly became my dream job. And I very quickly was like, okay, I have to do everything I can, because if I don't get this, I will be heartbroken. And so, yeah, started that whole process. Come the third round, I went through the first round behavioral, which was, normal behavioral with a recruiter. Second round, which was technical, 45 minutes to 1 hour. And then third round, which was a 6-hour long interview day. They call it a super day. And before this interview day, we were given a HackerRank to complete beforehand, and then that's what our technical interview for the super day would be focused on. And so I get my HackerRank, have a solid 2 hours to complete it, just your normal procedure. And they sent us the score of our HackerRank about a half an hour before our super day. And when I say my heart dropped, when I saw my score of 0 out of 70, 30 minutes before I'm supposed to look these people in the eye and convince them that they should hire me. And so it very much took a lot out of me in the moment, but 20 minutes after I completed my super day, I received a call from them and they gave me an offer just 20 minutes after that super day. So I'm here to share with you all just, how to break down the problem, not only in thought, but procedure, and really just share with you all why I got this, even though I literally failed. So really it goes down to these tips right here. And I'm going to go more in depth in them in about 3 minutes. So first, you have to break down the problem. Specifically, inspect your inputs. I will share directly what this means soon. Number 2, you need to maintain efficient and proper coding procedure. 3, if there's a roadblock, go around it. And 4, keep the company goals and objectives in mind. And so really I think for us to get the most out of this, I have actually provided an actual example of the problem I had that day, barring a few words. So getting into it. At Women Who Code theme park, visitors want to maximize the time they can spend enjoying the rides and activities in the park, while minimizing the time they spend waiting in line. We would like your help implementing a feature to help parkgoers tailor their WWC park experience to their needs. We want to calculate the current wait time for each ride in the park. This will help park visitors decide which rides to enjoy. So, seems simple enough. So now let's break down really everything they want from us. So you're given the first the number of rides, then an array of strings representing rides. Each string includes the ride's title, the ride's type, so coaster, simulator, water, etc., and the ride length in minutes, the number of seats on the ride, and the current number of people in line for that specific ride. So an example string would be Despicable Me, Minion Mayhem, comma, simulator, which is the ride type, 4, which is the duration of the ride, 20, the number of seats on it, and 30, the people in line. So completing this solution really came down to 2 things, the calculations and the sorting. Really, there were just 2 calculations, pretty simple. Complete the function get wait time estimates, which will organize the rides based on their ride type and wait times. 2, calculate the wait times for each ride. Then the sorting. And now this is really what made this a challenging assignment. So first, sort the rides in alphabetical order by ride type. Okay, sounds simple enough. Within each ride type, sort rides by estimated waiting time from shortest to longest. For rides with the same ride type and ride time, sort them in alphabetical order by title. Print the sorted list of rides with each ride's title, type, and estimated wait time. So before we get into this, I want to preface this by saying we are not solving this problem. That is not what I am here to do. As you know, I got a 0 on this. So I did not solve it. We're not going to be solving this. What we're going to do instead is use this assignment to see really how to break apart those four tips I have for you all. So starting with number 1, break down the problem, inspect your inputs. So as stated within the assignment, the inputs we would get from the program is one array of multiple strings. And as given in the example, a string, for example, would be Despicable Me Mayhem Simulator and the times and the different numbers for wait time. And then comma, another string with the exact same format. And so that is what we would have to work with. However, right off the bat, it should be noted that if we see the numbers here, there's no way to do a calculation with these numbers because if you see here, they're actually strings, they're text. And being able to grab those numbers would be troublesome on their own. If we try to see like, okay, let's get the different aspects of this array and instead rides array at index 0. That is this whole entire string from the title to the right type to the numbers and everything. And if you remember, the sorting was based on each different component. So you need to be able to grab these things. So what I recommend to you all is from the second you get your assignment, specifically the second you get your inputs that they would give you, inspect what those inputs look like and ask yourself, is this a proper way to get to this information? Numbers being strings, whole different components being smashed into one string and things like that. Inspect that. And if the answer is no, right away, create a function that converts that initial input into something more workable. And so that is what I did here. First thing off the bat, I created a function called makeArray that takes in a single ride string. So for example, this despicable me string right here, and splits it up. And after it's split up into its own array with its own components within that array, we take in from wherever the numbers start, which is index 2, 0, 1, 2, and we turn those into integers with the parse int. And then if it's not a number, then keep them as the strings that they are. And so really the output ends up looking like this: Despicable Me Mayhem as its own string, comma, simulator as its own string, comma, the numbers in their own little components as integers. And so instead of getting the initial input of the one large array with a bunch of strings, we get a large array and smaller arrays within that array. And now it's a lot easier to grab things and work with them. And so really, the best way to just see how you can manipulate the input you get, first check the numbers. Are they integers, are they text? And see just how much information you're getting in one little input and see if you can break that up. Being able to do this shows your interviewer and the company you're interviewing for that you are able to, even in the midst of stress and anxiety, you are able to step back and lay the groundwork for you completing your assignment and project before you even get there. And that's what's very important. So number 2, this is something I'm sure we've all heard thousands of times, but this presentation wouldn't be complete without it. But maintain efficient and proper coding procedure. I think where a lot of people get led astray with these HackerRanks is the mindset of, if I don't solve this problem, I don't get the job. Stray away from that mindset and instead focus on showing them what type of engineer you would be on the job. Don't even worry about solving it. Show them your coding procedure, how you go about solving things, and the way you would contribute to their team. And so one example, very simple example, is the calculate wait time function that I used for that specific requirement, in which we take that ride array that we created in the previous slide and just break it apart into the line length, which is ride array at index 4, which is the 30, the cease, which is 20, then the duration, which is 4, and having the wait time equation of line length divided by cease times duration and returning that wait time. What someone could have very easily done is, using this output, said wait time equals ride array at index 4 divided by ride array at index 3 times ride array at index 2, instead of separating it out into something more readable. And although doing that helps with time, and a lot of times you don't get enough of it. It helps with time, however, it doesn't produce truly readable and efficient code. And at the end of the day, we want to show our interviewer that even in the midst of stress and time constraints, that we can produce proper coding procedure. Because unless you're working at some 2-person company, odds are the projects and assignments that you're given will not end with you. They will get to you and get away from you. And the way you produce that assignment and the way you give it off to the next person determines how much time they spend on it. And we don't want the next person who has what work we did to spend an unnecessary amount of time trying to understand our code, even if we have the solution, but now they don't even understand how things are related to each other. And keep in mind that this wait time equation was given in the assignment. Just like this, they said wait time is calculated by X, Y, and Z. And so that was not something I needed to figure out on my own. However, that goes on to the third point. If there is a roadblock, go around it. If this was a multiple choice test, if instead of HackerRanks, we were given multiple choice tests to determine our, ability for the job, we know, because we've heard this 100 times, that if we get stuck on a certain problem, to surpass it and go to the next problems and answer everything we can. Because at the end of the day, what we want is to rack up as many points as possible. Do the exact same here with your HackerRanks, with your coding assignments and everything. Do the exact same thing. Now, where that gets tricky is with coding and projects and things like that. A lot of times you can't move on to step 4 and 5 without solving step 3 because things are just so closely intertwined together. However, with these assignments, create some sort of placeholder that allows you to move on. And what I mean is this. Let's say we did not have the equation for wait time. Let's say they did not give us the equation and we don't know it by heart. And, because it's a HackerRank, a coding assessment, an interview, we can't call a friend, we can't go to Google, we can't do any of those things. And keep in mind, I'm very aware that even with HackerRanks, people Google. However, more and more companies have been using systems and resources that actually do track your activity while solving these. I've actually solved an assignment with a program like this, where if I even deviated from the screen, I would be called out and immediately taken off the candidate list. And so keep that in mind. And that's why I say do something like this. If I did not have the wait time equation, don't spend 20 minutes trying to figure out the equation and eating up the very little time you have. Instead, create a placeholder where in this case, I generate, with this formula, I generate a random number between 1 and 10, and that would be my wait time. And so if we see here, let wait time equals math.floor, so taking out any decimals, math.random times 11, which gives us a number between 1 and 10. If I had said times 12, it would have given us a number between 1 and 11. Then comment what you are doing. So something like this. Due to the lack of the formula for wait time, I've generated a random number between 1 and 10 to act as the wait time for visitors. Because we are not trying to lead these interviewers astray. We're not trying to be sneaky in any way or anything like that, or not to get caught for anything. What we are doing instead is we are owning our gap in knowledge, claiming it, and saying, hey, I don't know this, but this is what I'm going to do to make sure I can get to the rest of the problem and rack up as many points as possible. Because again, we're trying to show the interviewer what we are like in a team. And in a team and at an actual company, a lot of time is taken up by engineers because they don't know what they don't know. They don't know what they're missing to make something work. And a lot of time is spent trying to get that information and figure out what's wrong and things like that. By doing this, you're showing your interviewer, you know exactly what you're missing. Now, all you need to do is just get that information, which in a company, you would be Googling, you would be calling a friend, you would be going to your manager, you would be doing all of those things, and they're encouraged. But now, instead of being the person who doesn't know what they don't know and is sitting there for 20, 30 minutes, days, trying to figure out what's wrong, you are the person who goes to the manager, goes to your peers with a specific question, and in 2 seconds, you know exactly what to do and can tackle the rest of your project. So that is what you're showing them here. So on to 4. Keep the company goals and objectives in mind. So Of course, we are here to solve a assignment and whatnot, but keep in mind that, again, I'm going to say this 1,000 times, show them who you would be as an engineer. So before you even get to the portion where you get into the solution and you start saying how you tried to solve it or actually did solve it, things like that, with this specific problem, start off by saying something like, this is the beginning of an interview. So yes, so I was very excited when I got this assignment because with COVID right now, I can't imagine what open theme parks, how they're handling this right now. I can imagine how figuring out the different wait times for the rides is just such priority, because as wait time decreases, then so does the risk for infection, as people are not standing in line and things like that. So I'm so happy to go into this, and this is how I solved the equation, or the HackerRank. Boom, right there, you show them that you understand that this is not just a problem, a step in the interview that you're trying to get through. You understand that this is something that their engineers are dealing with every single day. Because by the second and third round of your interview, the HackerRank assignment you will get will 90% of the time be directly related to that company's operations, if it isn't the first round. And so being able to show them that you are in that mindset of being an engineer at their firm, even with this small assignment, right off the bat shows them how committed you would be with this job. Then go a step further after this. And now you have shown them everything you've done, all the work you've done, and gone through it with them. Now end it off by looking into the future of what next steps would be done by the engineering team. So say something like this. So that is my solution. And for next steps, I would greatly like to see a program created that populates the wait times of different rides whenever they surpass a specific duration, let's say 10 minutes. By doing this and by being able to collect the ride that did this, the amount of time was spent by consumers in line, and what date this happened. If this is analyzed every month or quarter or year, I imagine the operations department would be able to make decisions on which rides to expand, which rides to maybe get rid of, and just that type of decision-making process. So I very much would look forward to seeing how all of that turned out. With that, now you show your interviewer that what you say on your resume and what you say in your interview, when we all say, oh, I'm just such a team player, you are showing them exactly that you are able to think beyond just yourself and think about how your projects and the assignments you complete affect the greater ecosystem that is the company. And so finally, what I really think would set you apart from all of this is entering the interview with a refactored form of the solution you came up with. And so try to find a way to take a picture of the assignment or screenshot it or something like that. And after you've submitted it, after the 2 hours, 1 hour, whatever, try to spend an additional hour, 3 hours, 8 hours, 10, however much time you can put into it before the date of your interview, and try to refactor it. Try to even get further than you did before. If you did complete it, refactor it. Find a way to make the code better, more readable, having functions with less number of lines and things like that. Because by doing this, you're showing them that, look, I am what I say I am. I am a dedicated person who cannot put a problem down and really want to be a part of this team. And on a team, if I am lucky enough to be hired, this is how I would behave. Just because something has surpassed me does not mean I'm not looking for a way to get better and grow as an engineer. And this would greatly set you apart. However, keep in mind that if you do this, when you get to your interview, start off by saying, yes, I'm ready to go through my solution with you. However, I do have a refactored form of my solution that I would love to show you at the end if we have any time. Saying that, but also making sure you have that code ready, because you don't want them to say yes and then more time spent looking up the file or opening it up, because technically, because that was all done after you submitted your code, that shouldn't really be part of their consideration. And so you don't want to spend more of their time just getting everything together. So just keep that in mind. And so, yes, those are the tips I have for you all on how to really fail correctly and get the job no matter what score you got on your HackerRank. So please let me know if you have any questions. I can repeat anything or anything like that.
That was super awesome. Thanks so much. Great presentation. I had a question. Have you tried the bonus? Did you do that in your?
Yes, I did exactly.
Go over. I'm so curious.
So I received the HackerRank a few days before that Super Day interview, and yeah, did all I could. And I knew when I completed it, I knew I did not truly, finish it or like go through their requirements, things like that. So I did take pictures along the way, or like just before I was set to submit it. And I spent the next 2 days going through it. And when I got to the interview, they were like, yeah, so pull it up and whatnot. And I actually did start off with exactly that. Like, yes, I can go through the solution, but I also do have a refactored form. Just I feel that it is a better representation of my coding abilities and things like that. And they were very understanding, because they were like, yeah, when there's, a ticking time bomb looking in front of you, like that is the clock, it's very hard to feel centered in what you're doing and actually work the way you would in a team. And so they were very, very open to that, and were honestly like very impressed that I came with this extra stuff. Like I ended up coming like with like 150 lines of code with them to that interview, because it was broken up so much and all this stuff. So overall it went well.
That's super cool. Thanks.
Yeah.
Naya, did you have your refactored code up like in your VS Code or like in a code pen or something?
Yes, it was in VS Code, and I simply just asked to share the screen with them. And yes, they were very patient with me. And that actually kind of goes to like a small other tip. I haven't run into this situation much, so I'm not sure if this is universal. But when I went into the interview with the idea to go through the solution I submitted, it was over like a PDF, like the PDF had my solution. And so instead I put that exact solution in VS Code as well, just because we're all engineers here. Like we like the different colors, we like seeing the line numbers and things like that. And so I actually showed them that through VS Code as well. So I think that's just a little extra tip for you all. Okay, I think that's the other people.
Looks like there's some questions in the chat.
Yes. So did I practice challenges like these on HackerRank prior to my interviews? So yes and no. A lot of the practice I went through was being able to code for loops, like those loops you do for arrays and things like that, like the for loops. And that was a big part of my practice, because I knew that I was terrible at the loops and keeping things like not like n squared and like things like that. I knew I was just so bad at that. So that was my main practice. And it was very hard for me to have practiced this because to be honest, to this day, I have not solved this problem because if you all try to solve it, you'll see that where the problem gets is the sorting and the sorting within the sorting and then the sorting within the sorting within the sorting. And it's very hard to try not to get to that ridiculous exponential time value and things like that. And so really what I practiced was going through for loops and also practicing talking about what I'm doing and why I'm doing it and how my code is structured. So the test, so the question is, did they give you a test to pass or did you even have time to test? So that really was the test. That was the main, of the third round, that was the only technical part. Going through my code, and then they gave me, maybe this is the question you're asking. Then after I went through that, they gave me a very quick coding test. Like, this is the situation, how would you code out the solution? And it was very simple, would have taken like 6 lines of code. Y'all, I was so frazzled by the time I got there. Like I had 5 minutes left in the interview. It is like, and swear to you, I still think about this like when I'm trying to go to bed. Like it was the most simplest like question they could have given me and I could not solve it for the life of me. Like I could not think for the life of me because I just got so frazzled. But like I said, they were very understanding and they knew, how scary this all is. And I think it helped a lot that I had done all of this prep beforehand. But please, like, keep a steady head because at the end of the day, it's not knowing that's not going to get you the job. It's being frazzled throughout all of it that's going to not get you the job. So breadth or depth? Should I try to understand one topic before moving on or hit as many topics as possible? Say spend 3 days on arrays versus read through one question each day. So it's a combination. I started off with going through a bunch of different topics because I wanted to get a sense of where I was starting out in that journey of solving HackerRanks and solving questions and things like that. So I started off with, arrays and like different like functional stuff and like all this stuff, like going through all of that. And after about a few days of really just understanding what things I really, really struggled on, I started there and started to fill into that depth with that. So for me, that was specifically for loops and filling in that gap. Then let's say later on, it's objects and filling that gap. I personally recommend if you're going for a more entry-level dev job, I personally recommend being extremely comfortable with for loops and keeping in mind that you can use a for loop, but then if you say dot sort in that for loop, boom, that's n squared. Like it's over. So keeping that in mind and just, practicing for loops versus the time value of the problems. That is what I recommend for junior related jobs.
Awesome. We have time for maybe one more question, if there is one. Doesn't look like there is. Well, thank you so much. That was super awesome. Everybody virtual claps. Yay.
No, thank you so much for letting me be here. It was very fun getting to talk and meet with you all. Yeah. And my LinkedIn information is on the invite. So feel free to connect with me there.
Thank you so much. Okay, I'm going to stop the recording, but I have a few more things before we go.